Make decisions of what suits you best, and then find out your perfect settings at the end. The first decision is your sensitivity of building. 68% of fights are box fights. Most pros find the key to success when boxing an enemy is being fast so that you don't take damage, or in general being able to turn around and quickly build, or to piece control effectively and quickly get a kill. The first up, build sensitivity, you're going to want it fairly high. I'll tell you the perfect setting at the end of the video. Next decision is linear versus exponential. Now, let's say from the last tip, we just boxed our enemy. Now, as box fights are the most common fights, you have to take into consideration the new meta, which is primal shotguns. Now, how linear and exponential come into this, because the new meta is getting in people's faces and spraying bullets. So in the latest season, this means every single bullet in that box fight is so essential to hit. But I'll tell you the right option at the end. Next up is the key to what most pros call aimbot setting. Now, you have to understand that over the years on console, everyone used to experience a severe input lag. This links perfectly with the look sensitivity topic, because everybody used to go ahead and play with a really high sensitivity to cope with the input delay we used to face on console. But they actually removed this delay we're all worried about, which, as you can see, I'm not hitting any shots because I'm over flicking with a fast sensitivity, and worked out having a low sense will go ahead and give you better aim. This next bit is a huge important one that all the pros use as the key to their success, and that is dead zones. Should you use a low or a high dead zone? Well, no one really knows this, but dead zones create this kind of lag between your controller, which is why my screen is turning to the left without me touching my analog stick. But this actually only really happens on old controllers, as inside this little pivot thing, it gets dirt and it starts to just become worn. Therefore, the pivot starts to become inaccurate and start to lag. And I'll try and get your head around this. And this is basically every single pro has been telling the community for years to use a low dead zone. Now, let me explain why this is actually bad for you guys and the community as a whole. Because like I said, the only reason people experience dead zone stick drift is when they have old controllers. Now, all of these pros suggesting this to use a low dead zone, all are sponsored by big companies such as like esports and get brand new controllers every few months. Therefore, when they use low dead zones, it's very helpful. But when they tell the community, who all have like 2-year-old controllers, it is actually a really negative thing to tell you guys, because it makes you even more inaccurate, simply because when you all try it out, your screen moves by itself and you get a stick drift. Am I telling you to use a low or a high dead zone? And I'll tell you that at the end of the video. This next bit is going to go over the optimal settings so that you get smooth movements before I discuss all the perfect settings. Right, the first thing you can do to getting an optimal bind controller is one of the most easiest binds you can go ahead and make optimal is your left stick. Now, there are a few different binds I could mention, but every single controller player has a left stick. Now, when you click this down, usually it's to go ahead and sprint. But if you didn't know, you can actually go ahead and remove this. Therefore, freeing up your left stick could be used for a few options. These options include perhaps editing, using it for a jump bind, or possibly a switch mode so that you can switch your build map without ever having to take your finger off this analog stick. The reason this is so good, because when running, you've always got your finger on this stick, as it guides where your character is going to move. Therefore, I don't have to take my finger off, and I can make an edit whenever I want. Now, what I've been hyping up the whole video, the correct perfect settings. So basically, we are actually multiplying the actual look sensitivity. The actual digit would be exactly 2.1 and 2.2%. Next up, to actually hit your shots when you're aiming down a scope, the optimal binds for this is going to honestly be anywhere from 5% all the way up to 15%. Obviously, there might have been a lot of confusion earlier between if you wanted to use linear or you wanted to use exponential. But just to remind you guys, exponential, the actual graph of what it looks like in mathematics, is it basically starts off at the bottom and slowly curves up and speeds up. Whereas if you guys want to go ahead and use linear settings instead, the mathematics graph for this, sorry to get a little complicated, but it just goes straight up in a straight line. But anyways, next up, we're going to talk about dead zone. Now, why do Fortnite suggest this, and why do pros suggest 5%? Which can cause your screen to move without me even moving the stick this time. But instead, guys, the exact perfect settings for this one, I'm going to go ahead and be using around 10% for both of them. That's what I find is the perfect settings for the dead zone, trust me. And now for the final, most vital, most important, most successful settings is the look sensitivity, which makes up all of these settings, and it all multiplies, and this is the base one. Okay, so there's actually a slight difference with this one, because what's going to be different is we want the horizontal to actually be a very slight different speed to the vertical sensitivity. Go and put this all the way up to 47% exactly, very important. Now the vertical sensitivity, you guys, that is 47 and 45%. There's the perfect settings. Please drop a like, helps more than you think. Go down, check if the subscribe button is red or not. Comment if linear or exponential is better, and click this video up here on screen for good luck. Trust me, guys, see you over there. Click this one.